Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am AXEL Remojo, and together with my groupmates, Atchico John Michael, Bartolome AJ, Bolaños Rain, Peralta James, Perey Gio, Rustria JAMELLE, Segundo Joel, Tabanganay JILLIAN, and Tolentino RENZO. We're gonna be showing you our web-based access code analyzer. So to show you the functionality of our project, we have here a sample access code. So if we click the code check length, it will return the number of the length of our access code. So in our case, the length of our access code is 7. So in the next, we have here an even and odd digit analysis button. So this button returns the number of the even and odd digits that appeared in our access code. And then next, we have here a digit frequency report button. So this function returns all the digits that appeared in our access code and also their appearance in the access code. And then next we have here the most repeated digits button. So this function returns the most repeated digit in our access code and also the number of its appearance in our access code. So in our case, digit 4 is the most repeated digit in our access code and it appeared 2 times in our access code. And then next we have here a code reversal button. So this button reverses our access code. And then next we have here a pattern check. So this, function returns if the access code pattern is valid or invalid. So in our case, our pattern is valid, and the invalid pattern consists of a access code that has more than 3 consecutive similar numbers, and then we have here our digit search. So it prompts the user to enter a number. For example, we entered number 4. Then next, it returns if the number exists in our access code and also its total of number of occurrences and also the position where it first appeared. And then lastly, we have here a clear button. So the clear button clears our input field and resets our result display. And to ensure that our project is safe from errors, we also put some validations in our buttons. So if the user entered a letter accidentally in their access code, for example, that if they click a button in our project, it will display a note to the user that the access code must not contain letters or special characters. And if they entered an access code that doesn't have a single odd or even digit, it will also display a note for them that the access code must have at least one odd or even numbers. For example, we entered a access code that consists of all odd numbers. So this is the node for the user. And then next, uh, what if the user enters a access code that doesn't consist of 6 digit or more than 12 digits? So it will also return a note to the user that the access code must contain 6 to 12 digits. And then next, if the user entered an access code that has uh, 4 consecutive similar digits, it will also note the user that the pattern is invalid. So, for example, here we have more than 3 consecutive similar digits, and this is uh, the note that the user will see. And here we have here a function called validation gate. So in our validation gate, we stored all of our validation methods, and then we used our validation gate in each of our buttons to validate the is character valid, the is length valid, the is even and odd count valid, and the is pattern valid all at once. And for our is character valid, we have here a for loop that iterates through the characters of the access code. And we have here a variable called current digit, and this stores the digit that is are currently on in our user access code at an specific index. And then next we have here an if statement that checks if the character is valid, and the program notes the user if the character is not valid, and it says access code must not contain letters or special characters, and then it returns false, and otherwise it returns true. So for our isLength valid method, we have here a if statement that checks if the access code length is less than 6 or greater than 12. If the access code length is less than 6 or greater than 12, uh, the program notes the user that they have an invalid input, and that the access code must contain 6 to 12 digits. And it also returns false. And otherwise, it returns true.
So the greetings. So for my part, the function is even and odd count valid. It checks whether the user access code contains at least one even digit and one odd digit. So first, it initializes the two counters, the even counter for even digits and the odd counter for the odd digits. So next, for the for loop, goes through each character in the text user access code, that value, and inside the loop, which has a char at that gets the digit at the current position and multiplying it by 1 converts it to from string to a number. Then the code will go to the module operator to determine if the digit is even or odd. If the remainder is 0, so the digit is even and even counter will increase. Otherwise, the odd counter will increase. So after checking all the digits, the if statement verifies the condition. If either counter is 0, it means the access code contains only even digits or only odd digits. In that case, there are an error message display and the function returns it into false. If both counters are greater than 0, the function returns to true, meaning the access code is valid.
So, Dangal, greetings to Janus, and I'm here to explain this is pattern valid method. So, this method checks if the number of same consecutive digits is valid. Inside this method, we have variables called prev digit and consecutive counter. We also have a for loop that checks every character of the access code. We also have if-else condition inside this for loop. So, inside the if condition, if the current digit is equals to prev digit, it means that the two digits are same and it will update the consecutive counter. So inside this, if we also check if the consecutive counter is greater than 3, which means that the consecutive number is invalid. And if the current digit and prev digit are not the same, the consecutive counter will reset to 1.
And now let's find my part, which is the function code check length. So this is check the length of the user's access code and display how many characters it contains. It first calls the validation gate function to make sure the input length is valid, which should be between 6 and 12 characters. So if the input does not meet this requirement, the function stops by returning false. So when the input is valid, the function updates the text of P output to show the total number of the character using the line property of the text user access code value. So this ensures that the only valid input is processed and clearly show the character count to the user. Thank you.
Dangal greetings, Rustria, and I will be explaining the even and odd digit analysis. So first, there is an if statement that validates the length of the user input. If the input is not 6 to 12 digits long, the function returns false and stops the execution. After the validation, two variables are declared and initialized to 0. These variables are the even counter and the odd counter, which counts the even and odd digits in the user input. Next, a for loop is used to iterate through each digit of the input. The loop runs from the first up to the last digit based on the length of the user input. Inside the loop, we get the value of the current digit using the char@add method and is then converted into a number. Then the program checks if it's an even or odd number by using modulo. If the current digit is divisible by 2 with no remainder, it is considered even and the even counter increases. Else, the digit is considered odd and the odd counter is increased. Then the results are displayed by setting P output inner text, which shows the total number of the even digits and the total number of odd digits that appeared in the user's input.
Mga greetings, Sir Janus, and my part in this project is the digit frequency report method. First, we have a for loop that checks every single digit that was inputted by the user. The second for loop checks if the current digit is already checked. If the previous digit matches the current digit, the loop will stop. The second condition continues to check the previous digit. If the result is false, the checking continues. The last for loop compares the digit in the inputted access code. If the current digit matches the digit, it compares and the count increases by 1. The frequency report stores the current digit and how many times it appeared. The inner text will set the output equals to the frequency report.
So, dangal greetings. The function get most repeated digits identifies which digit or digits appear most frequently in a user's access code. First, the function calls the validation gate function. This ensures the access code length is valid, specifically between 6 and 12 digits. If the input is invalid, the function immediately stops. Next, several variables are initialized. Max count tracks the highest number of repetitions. Results stores the digits with that highest count. Access code string hold the user's input. Output formats what will be displayed. The function then uses a loop from 0 to 9, checking each digit one at a time. For every digit, another loop scans the entire access code and count how many times that digit appears. If a digit appears more times than the current max count, it becomes the new most frequent digit. If another digit has the same frequency, it is added to result, allowing the function to handle ties. Finally, the function loops through result and print each most repeated digit along with how many times it appeared. This output is then displayed to the user. So that's all for my part.
Greetings, and my part of this project is the code reversal. Ever wonder how a computer actually flips a sequence? Well, in our access code analyzer doesn't just guess. It manually rebuilds the code from the finish line back to the start. First, we trigger our validation gate to ensure we have a clean 6 to 12 digit code. Once cleared, we create an empty container called reverse access code. Instead of starting at the beginning, our loop starts at the very last character, calculated as the length minus 1. It grabs that digit, drops into our container, and takes a step backward. It repeats this backward march until it hits the very digit at index 0. By the time the loop finishes, our empty container is filled with the exact mirror image of your entry. We then display that result instantly on the screen. Simple, logical, and effective. That's how we flip data.
Dangal greetings, Sir Janus, and I'm here to explain this pattern check method. So this method is called inside the HTML structure or inside the button to check the pattern if the pattern of the access code is valid. So inside this if statement, there is a validation gate method that returns true if the pattern of the access code is valid, and it will display a message if the pattern is valid.
Greetings everyone, I'm ARCHUVERJUN Bartolome Jr. explaining how the digit search function works. First, the program checks if the access code length is valid using validation gate. If it's invalid, the function stops right away. And next, the user is asked to enter a digit to search. The program then prepares variables to track if the digit exists, how many times it appears, and where it first appears. This function scans the access code digit by digit. Once a match is found, it saves the index and stops the search. If the digits exist, another loop counts how many times it appears. And finally, the program displays whether the digit exists, its total occurrences, and its first position. If not found, it shows an error message. And that's how the digit search function works. Thank you.
Dangal greetings. For the clear function, its main purpose is to reset two things, the access code input field and the output display area. So in our code, we have txt user access code that value equals to null. So its function is to clear the input area once the user click the clear button. Next, we have the p output that inner text equals to results will display here. So this will just returns the initial value of the p output once the user click the clear button. So that's all for the clear function.